Welcome back, YouTube Frost, to another video. This time we'll be covering preparation tips based off of the information covered in the EN livestream and in official HoYoLab articles. I was going to cover all upcoming 2.1 units, but after seeing the length, I decided to only focus on Baal and Sara, who are coming on the first banner. In terms of preparation, we can mostly take a look at artifact possibilities and whether or not anything is pre-farmable before 2.1 arrives. Let's begin. First, we have the RAIDEN Shogun, or Baal. Electro Polearm user. Let's break down what the EN livestream and the official HoYoLab article presented us with. Elemental skill. Activation deals AoE electro damage. Grants a buff above the active character called Eye of Stormy Judgment. This activates coordinated attacks dealing AoE electro damage, which reminds me official C6 but AoE form. The coordinated attacks proc at max once every 0.9 seconds, and the Eye also increases active character's elemental burst damage based on the cost of the current character's active burst. I know, that's a mouthful. Pretty insane elemental skill already, a combination of off-field AoE sub-DPS and burst buff in one ability. Off-field coordinated attacks are extremely strong, think official C6 again, and team buffing is always a plus. Things we'll have to keep in mind for release, whether or not the burst increase is flat or scales dynamically off of some stat. Okay, moving on to the passive talent, Chakra Desiderata. When party members, excluding herself, use their bursts, RAIDEN Shogun will build resolve stacks based on the burst energy cost. Maximum number of stacks is 60. Stacks seem to remain for 300 seconds, or 5 minutes after she leaves the field. I would guess the 5-minute timer is correlative to an Abyss Chamber duration, since both sides must be done in 10 minutes, which leaves an approximation of 5 minutes per half. Now, Chakra also gains 2 resolve stacks at max every 3 seconds when a party member gains orbs or particles based on another passive, Wishes Unnumbered. Based on the image here, we can see a demonstration of Wishes Unnumbered passive with the Anemo MC's elemental skill, and also Geo MC's burst, granting what looks to be 1/6 of the visual ring, which looks to be an indicator of her maximum resolve stacks. It'll be curious to see how these resolve stacks scale by the cost of the burst, and on average how many stacks she'll have when activating her own burst. And finally, Elemental Burst. Activates an elevated Musou Ishin state where she uses a Tachi to perform electro-infused damage. This damage will be increased based on the number of chakra stacks consumed, which will be interesting to see whether this is talent scaling or additional damage scaling, i.e. physical or elemental damage. Looking at her attack patterns, they seem to change completely from her polearm state. Also, they mentioned that during this state, her normal, charge, plunging attacks are also considered elemental burst damage. This is a notable difference than, for example, Xiao, who enters his mass state, but his elemental burst instead buffs his normal charge plunging damage without changing the damage modifier to the burst. This means unlike Xiao, who does not benefit from Noblesse 2-piece, Baal should be able to. They mentioned during this state that her attacks recharge energy for her teammates, she's immune to electrocharge effects, and she has increased resistance to interruption. And in the live stream, they also mentioned a passive talent, Enlightened One. If Baal's energy recharge is above 100%, she gains increased energy restoration and increased electro damage bonus. They specifically mentioned above 100%, and I'm curious to see the scaling for the energy restoration part. Keep in mind, this is different than the emblem set, which counts the elemental burst conversion based on the whole recharge, not just above 100%. So, based on this current information, she's a energy recharge scaling electro-infused DPS Archon with a coordinated AoE sub-DPS aura and team-wide energy restoration support capabilities. Whew. We'll see how this changes for when she's released and for my complete guide. So, for artifacts based on the livestream information, we have some preliminary options to prepare for. As a character, she wishes to maximize her burst damage, and she scales off of recharge. So, first off, Emblem 4-piece set. This set scales directly off the passive talent they mentioned. If going this set, energy recharge timepiece to maximize set bonus and passive talent. Attack timepiece is also perfectly fine. The goblet can either be attack or electro. I think for Emblem specifically, between attack versus electro main stat goblet, the substats matter more, and it also depends on your weapon choice. Both are solid. For the mask, stick with crit rate or crit damage depending on your balance. Other options for artifacts: Noblesse 2-piece or 4-piece, benefits both the burst and grants attack if doing 4-piece. Thundering, only the 2-piece. 4-piece focuses on reducing the cooldown for the skill, which is less important, not the burst. Gladiator 2-piece, generic attack percent. Shimenawa's 2-piece, generic attack percent. And Thunder Soother, only a 4-piece set. Damage bonus to those afflicted by Electro increased by 35%. Those of you who are freshly joining the game, pre-AR45 options: Exile, energy recharge base; Scholar, energy recharge base; Braveheart and Sojourner are both attack based. Those are 4-star artifacts. For the generic main stats, I think that either energy recharge, electro, crit, or attack, electro, crit are going to be standard given livestream info. Depends on the reliability of her elemental burst uptime and how well you maintain that. Attack versus electro goblet comes down to emblem set or not, substats, and full information on release. So, the 2.1 preview page you can see here teases the engulfing lightning, which is also the weapon shown in the live stream. We do not have any stats yet though, but it's very likely going to be like an iconic weapon for her. This is definitely for those who are wailing and pulling for the 5-star weapons. Along with the 4-star preview Claymore Luxurious Sea Lord, there's also the 4-star polearm The Catch, which they crop revealed in their official fishing details article. It looks like this, and we do get a glimpse of Elemental Burst Damage passive, which will probably be a super solid option for her on top of the Energy Recharge secondary stat. Depending on the scaling here, this could be the go-to F2P low spender weapon for Baal. So, first impressions of Baal, I think that she'll be a fun burst looping character who will likely be the anchor to a team cycle, activating her burst rotation last to help refund everyone else's burst back up. Looks to be a solid combination of offense of support in one character. Okay, let's brief Sara based on livestream information. She's an Electro Bow user. Elemental skill, Tengu Storm Call. She backdashes and gains Crow Feather cover. The Crow Feather that you can see here looks like a tri-leaf emblem sigil. Her next charge attack leaves a Crow Feather, which after a short delay activates Tengu Jurai, Ambush, which deals AoE electro damage and grants an attack buff. And then they mention her passive talent, Decorum. When that Tengu Jurai Ambush, specifically Ambush, hits opponents, she grants energy to all party members based on her current energy recharge. This part was pretty vague, and we'll definitely need to see the scaling here to see how much that energy recharge grants, because it could be just an afterthought, or it could actually be pretty significant. Elemental Burst activates an initial Tengu Jurai strike, and then 4 of another Tengu Jurai variation that is not the ambush. All provide some form of that same attack buff from her elemental skill. They don't leave any of those Crow Feathers though. The AoE looks to be pretty large, and potentially 2 instances of damage, one from the initial strike and the second from the 4 afterwards. Notice though that I mentioned her burst Tengu Jurai is not the ambush variation. That means it will not grant the Decorum or her passive talents and team energy restoration. So based on the livestream's info so far, she's mainly an AoE Electro sub-DPS attack buffing support with minor team energy restore. So her attack buff should be pretty high uptime, given that both her elemental skill and elemental burst grant some form of that attack buff. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are curious on the similarities and differences between Bennett and Sara, as they are the only 2 built-in attack buffers that we will have starting in 2.1. All we currently have information-wise is that Sara doesn't heal, but provides a bit of team energy. Bennett, on the other hand, heals and cleanses on top of the attack buff, but is only for his burst. I just think that Sara, being another attack buffer, allows Bennett to breathe a little bit more and not have to be on every single team comp that we know of. But we'll have to wait until the character's release for more information on their synergies. As one of the 2 built-in attack buffers though, I think that she'll become a well-received unit for many players, and being a 4-star will definitely help with ease of access. Alright, so artifacts for Sara. As a team attack buffer, Noblesse 4-piece is a no-brainer default choice. Very likely running energy recharge timepiece here, maximize her burst uptime, which by translation maximizes her skill and burst rotation for attack buff. Alternatives to this, going back to the Inazuma dungeon, 4-piece emblem. This sacrifices the 20% team attack buff to grant her more burst damage. Thundering Fury 4-piece could be a potential support set for her, depending on her elemental skill uptime, which is important for a no energy based team attack buff. And I'll mention this last one, but I don't think it'll have good uptime. 4-piece Tenacity set. This just depends on how she plays on release. Otherwise, for 2-piece sets, I'd go with recharge based first and then damage based second. This is a stepping stone before 4 Noblesse. So we have Emblem 2-piece, we have Noblesse 2-piece, Thundering 2-piece, Gladiator 2-piece, Shimenawa 2-piece. So there's a mixture of recharge there, burst damage, electro damage, and generic attack percent. For pre-AR45 players, Exile 2 to 4-piece and Scholar 2 to 4-piece, and then the generic attack ones that I also mentioned for Baal. For main stat pieces, I think that energy recharge timepiece will probably be unchangeable, considering that she's support based and her looping between elemental skill and elemental burst is really important. After that though, the standard offensive support build with electro goblet and a crit based mask will probably be the default. And I think that's mostly it for the preparation specifically for Sara. I'm personally really looking forward to her. I love her design. I can't wait to see how she pairs with all of our other characters. All right, final section, generic preparation for the upcoming characters. So, pre-farm capability for both Baal and Sara. So the current only world boss that drops an electro-related ascension material is the Electro Hypostasis. But that's been out since the beginning of the game, and I doubt we'll be let off that easy considering all the new Inazuma character releases have used Inazuman boss materials from Magokenki to Pyro Hypostasis to Mechanical Array. The live stream previewed 2 new bosses, one which looks to be an Electro Oceanid under that Thundercloud and Sarai Island, and the other the Hydro Hypostasis. These are looking to correlate with the Baal Sara release and Kokomi in the second half. So it looks to me we'll likely be scrambling again to farm their Ascension materials on day 1. Talent materials. Well, we won't know what scrolls they'll use until they're released, but I'm sure some of you have some vivid dreams on that, so I'll let you be. The material side though, we do have Senora coming out with 2.1 as a new weekly boss as well, so be prepared to use dream solvents to convert the ones that we'll need for Baal and Sara if you decide to use them on them. Pray that we all get 3 talent material drops from her rather than just 2. The specific ones to get are nice, but don't really matter as much anymore because we have dream solvents to be able to convert from one to the other. And who knows what other new materials we'll be getting with the release of the 2 new islands that they showcased, Watatsumi Island and Sara Island. All we can do currently is hoard up possibilities from the existing islands that we have. Farming routes for Nobushi, Mirror Maiden, as well as the Rune Sentinels that you guys know. Don't worry about all the pins here, these are just my farming routes. As well as any various flowers and local specialties on Inazuma, ranging from Onikabuto to Sakura Blooms again, Crystal Marrow, Dendrobium, Knockaweed, or Sea Ganoderma. So for my speedrunners and whales out there, we're gonna have to scramble day 1 most likely. For my F2P and low spenders, take your time. Absorb the information that we'll be providing you. And that should be it. Really looking forward to 2.1 and the new characters coming out. At the time of recording this, we have a Leyline Overflow event going on right now, so be sure to stock up on either books or Mora, whichever you need. If you guys enjoyed, would appreciate you dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. I'll be grabbing C6 Baal and C6 Sara, but I'll be making my guides on C0 with all applicable weapon options, so don't worry. I'll be streaming all my pulls and testing first impressions on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Xlice. I wish you gamers the best of luck going into 2.1, and I'll see you next time. Take care.